Welcome back to Roto Moto. My name is Donnie, and in this video, I will cover 5 riders I want you to look at when making your PulpMX fantasy picks for the final round of the 2021 fantasy season at a Hangtown Raceway in Sacramento, California. Also, tips for picking your FFLs, the weather report, a race day schedule, and an early look at what my team could be come Saturday. But first, let's take a moment, as always, to recap what went down last weekend at Fox Raceway. We had another small uptick in players for the second consecutive week, no doubt helped by the fact that the West Coast start gave more last-minute people ample time to pick a team. 6,470 total players, of which 4,389 paid to play for prizes. The perfect team was a season high of 656, led by a 100 in each class for Matthew Huber and Braden Lessler, as well as 3 different riders scoring 90 or more. The popular score was a pretty hefty 486, the second highest of the season, showing that it's not always the best to go against the grain, especially when the injuries start to pile up. For the first time since round 5, Justin Cooper failed to grab at least one FFL in the 250 class, much to the dismay of roughly 3,000 players that picked him, leading to a season-low 250 FFL score of just 7.4%. The 450 was understandably easy to guess. Ken Roxon has the most FFLs, and Cooper Webb the best average start in the class. They combined to split the first laps and continue to be the best picks of the year. The median championship score was just 415 this round, second lowest in 5 rounds, meaning if you scored 416 or more, you did better than half of the playing field. All-Star picks per team crashed to just 2.2, in big part to the fact that there were only 10 combined All-Stars racing at Fox Raceway last weekend. A small All-Star roster means a lot of room for the rest to fill it in. A season-high 34 non-All-Star riders managed to score 44 or more points. 140% worth of pick trend, or about 1.5 riders per team, managed to miss double points in both motos. The big hitter here was Derek Drake, who brought home a whopping single point for the 35% of players that had him on their team, including me. Of course, I was one of those unfortunate enough to have him here. Maybe I was too zealous, but I just couldn't afford to lose those points in the event that he did well. Going into this round, I was sitting at 107 points outside of the top 100. A bit of a long shot, but I knew I needed to gamble with some larger handicaps. The rest of my team was solid, Volan being the only one that left considerable points on the table, but ultimately it just didn't pay off, and now 102 points out of earning a national number this week is just for fun. The Roto Moto League sees a new name on the weekly leaderboard, with Sam Fury 4 taking the checkers on the 11th round. 5 of his 6 non-All-Star picks were on the popular team, but he zigged just that one rider, leaving Derek Drake off in favor of Ramella, which netted him 75 points over the rest of us. K-Pavs takes a shaky lead into the finals, just 22 points over McCulinick 288, but comfortably covering 3rd place in what is likely just a 2-horse race at this point for the Roto Moto season lead. Not a lot of activity in the ins and outs for the final rounds, no new injuries to speak of. The only notable addition to the outs list is Jace Kessler will not be lining up for the final round. The teams, and the fans for that matter, were really hoping to see some of these factory guys back for the final round, but it doesn't look to be so. One notable entry is the inclusion of the elder Moseman brother on the 450 sheet, and I've seen that confirmed on Twitter by the Pulp team. One that no one is talking about is number 86 Darian Sinai. After wrapping up the Canadian Triple Crown Supercross series last week, it appears he is planning on squeezing a single national in before the 2021 season wraps up, and he gets to cash in on that national number. Curiously, his team on the sheet is listed as Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki, but honestly, it's not that big of a stretch, as he did fill in for Mitch Peaton's team last season for 3 outdoor rounds and won a Canadian title on a similarly named Thor Pro Circuit Kawasaki team. There's still a chance that it's just wishful thinking by Darian, and he might not show, but I'm very interested to see where the handicappers are going to put him. Be sure to confirm that a rider is on the cheat sheet before putting them on your team, and for an even easier time, you can check a little box when selecting your team that says only show riders and AMA qualifying results to, you guessed it, only show guys that have put down a lap time. It will still show you guys that could have crashed or had an illness after setting that time, but hey, it's better than nothing. All right, on to your picks for the 2021 Hangtown Motocross Classic. I have 3 guys to target, 1 to avoid, and a high handicap guy to look at for you gamblers out there. Starting with the little class and working our way up in the 250 All-Star spot, let's take a look at Michael Moseman. Full disclosure, I would love to put Joe Shimoda here again, but I feel like it's cheating a little bit to pick him 3 weeks in a row. If you picked Joe last week, though, Moseman deserves a look. The Troy Lee Designs Gas rider has an eventful season, missing multiple motos this season in multiple spurts, but he has really strung together some strong finishes late in the season. Michael tends to start up front, which is something you want from an all-star. A guy in front of trouble is less likely to run into it, and he's managed to finish inside the top 4 in 6 of his last 8 motos. Moving on to your double eligible 250 rider, but this is a guy that I want you to shy away from this time. This week it's going to be Tai Masterpool. The privateer gas rider has put together a fantastic season with limited equipment and now finds himself a top 10 mainstay. My problem here is just that his ceiling is too low at this point. His best weekend of the season was a 6.7 moto scored Ironman, and even if he replicates that here, that's just 58 points. There isn't enough upside here to justify the pick considering how thin the midfield is and how many great picks there are outside of the single-digit handicaps. I think he could be worth a look if you are trying to protect a lead, but even then, I think I like Volant and Mumford more in that spot. On to the 450 class, your all-star spot doesn't have a lot of options with just 6 riders on the entry list, but I'm going for Joey Savacci. With a lofty handicap and another thin midfield, there just aren't a lot of guys that can get between him and the top 10, and he just needs 2 8s to max out with 50 points. Something to consider as we get down to this last round is the amount of guys that are competing for rides. Rocky Mountain has announced Shane McElrath will be on the team for 2022, but have not announced who would be alongside him. And with rumors swirling that the Rocky Mountain team is looking at Max Anstey, it's going to be important here for Joey to make an impression, rather it be with the RM team or if he could be looking at his 4th team in 4 years. Speaking of guys riding with purpose, your 450 NonAll Star spot should give consideration to Justin Bogle. The other half of the Rocky Mountain KTM tandem also has no announced plans, and there are more than a few people that think this could be just Justin's last race. Whether he wants to push for a ride next year or if he just wants to go out with a bang, this doesn't feel like the spot to pull off during a moto. Last week, Bogle rode to an 8th place finish in the first moto, but unfortunately, his second moto stopped before it even began, with a first turn crash that saw his equipment to be run over by his very own teammate, leaving a mangled bike that was unable to compete. This led to a slight bump in his handicap that will only help him lead you to higher scores at Hangtown. The Pirelli Tire High Handicap Hero of the Round, given to a rider with a handicap of 10 or more that I think has a realistic chance to score massive points this weekend if you're the type of person that likes to sweat out 2 30-minute motos for a big payout. This week's choice is going to the relatively unknown Tyson Johnson. The privateer went 25-19 last weekend for 20th overall, and it makes sense since he's a California native. But where he may be just a native of Paula, he's a local for Hangtown, living just an hour from this weekend's track. He has no professional results outside of his 3 motos this season, so I did a little digging on his Instagram and I found out that this guy is jacked, and being very familiar with the track and the weather means that his fitness and will to stay out there is strong. He qualified 22nd and 23rd respectively at the 2 Pala rounds, so you can use that as a gauge to see how strong he could be at his home track. The FFL picture stays exactly the same. In the 250s, it's Justin Cooper or bust, as he has 12 and 22 motos, 9 of 11 weekends, and the only guy with more than 2. Don't get cute here, take the easy points, or play it safe by not picking at all. The 450 is still leaning Ken's way, but Cooper Webb has the recent momentum. Ken has 8 out of the 22 motos on the season, but Cooper has 3 in the last 3 weekends, and Ferrandis could also be a spoiler here. And out of everyone on the gate, he's the one I could see going out here trying to get the whole shots and going 1-1 even with the title wrapped up. I think I'm gonna go Coop. It's just the last round and I'm outside of any real contention, so I might as well swing for a fence or 2 here. The weather on Saturday is going to be California hot again, but colder this time than last weekend, just 67 degrees as the qualifying begins, but a high of 89 as the final motos wrap up, and a heat index just a few degrees warmer. No rain in sight, so this is about as typical of weather as we can expect for the final round of the season. The schedule is another late round on the West Coast. Qualifying doesn't even begin until 1 p.m. on the East Coast, 10 a.m. for those local. Patreon supporters can expect the enhanced cheat sheet delivered to their phones at 2:30 Eastern, and the rest of you can expect the basic cheat sheet around 3 p.m. Eastern Time or noon for the Pacific crowd. Motos kick off an hour later and will be live on both Peacock app as well as Map TV at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. Before I show you my early team for Hangtown, I just want to take a moment to talk about this video's sponsor. Pirelli Tire has supported RotoMoto for almost the entire 2021 outdoor season, and I'm proud to have worked alongside them and thank them for giving a small outfit like mine a shot. Pirelli remains dedicated to the grassroots part of the sport with their "we sell what we race what we sell" motto, providing you access to the very same Scorpion MX tires used by their professional racing teams, including world champions such as Tim Geiser and Jeffrey Hurlings, as well as the Chaparral FXR Honda team led by Cody Schock, going 7-7 in the 450 class in his second season for what has capped off an amazing effort for him and for this team. This approach has allowed Pirelli to place its research and development focus on motocross, benefiting the everyday rider when they take it to their local racetrack. My Thursday night team looks like this. I have Joe Shimoda at a 5 handicap, which is the best value in the game. Up and down Derek Kelly at a 15, hoping he can string together 2 motos on 2 wheels. Hometown hero Tyson Johnson at a 15, and finally Netherlands native Rick Elzinga at an 18. I don't know how much I trust this pick, but at this point in the season, I need to take every opportunity I can to score 100 points. 450 side, I have Joey Savacci riding for his career at a 7, and also Justin Bogle riding for his career at a double eligible 3. Justin Rodbell trying to make it the fall of Rodbell at a 5, and finally Scott Meshy to continue a very underappreciated breakout season. Meshy is set to earn a double-digit number 86 as it stands, and is just 1 point behind passing A-Ray and 6 from Wilson Fleming, so there's always something for him to ride out there. Don't forget to follow at RotoMoto on Twitter and Instagram for qualifying insights, injury reports, stats, and banner as the race goes on, and of course those ever important fantasy cheat sheets. And if you want even more help making your picks, be sure to check out and subscribe to Roto Moto on Patreon for access to the enhanced cheat sheets chock full of more data than you can imagine to help you make those huge point picks. I want to give a shout out to the current Patreon supporters. This channel is made possible by good people like first-time subscriber Taylor M, as well as longtime supporters Kyle J, Dylan M, and Michael T. Thanks as always for watching Roto Moto. My name is Donnie. I will see you on race day.